day. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a little bit of reloading for my 22-250. The cases I have already prepped. For those that don't know, when it comes to reloading, you got to size, trim, prime, charge, and then seat your bullet. And also prior to that, depending on your preference, you also need to clean the brass to get the reloading lube off. Me personally, I do wet tumble. I just went to Harbor Freight and got their dual drum tumbler. It's a rock tumbler, which, as I trip over a chair, is this right here. So the sizing part, I use either this blue drum or that tin pan behind. I spray some sizing lube on there, or use a lube pad, your choice. Then on the press, I currently have my seating die in, but you have your sizer die in there. Put your brass in, pull the handle down, and back up. That sizes and punches out the old primer. Then after you do that for however many you need to do, you'll put them in your, whether it be a wet tumbler or a vibratory tumbler. You'll put it in there, let it run, clean the sizing lube off. Then you take it out of there. Like I said, if you wet tumble, then you have to have the brass dry. I usually dry it in the oven unless it's summer. Then I'll throw it in that tin pan up here. Got a speech impediment the last few days. I know what I want to say, but it doesn't always come out. But anyways, I'll put it in one of them tin pans there. Old baking sheet that I stole from the wife. I'll stick it outside and let it bake in the sun. Or I'll put it in the oven at 215. Water boils, at least here in the States, water boils at 212. So that's why I go 215, because our oven doesn't do 212. So 215 is just 3 degrees over. So I'll put it in there for about 30 minutes, and then I'll shut the oven off and let it cool down. Then what you do next, you got to trim it. So depending on what case you're running, like you're running 223, 556, it's 1750 is what you trim it to. So I use two different trimmers. I got a manual. They're both manual trimmers, but most of the time I use this one here. It's got a little arbor in it, I think they're called arbors. You got to have the appropriate size, which in this case is a 22 caliber. Your shell holder, which this one here uses just standard shell holders. Which is like this, just a standard shell holder. Some of them, they have a universal, some don't. And as you'll trim it to size, and then you got to deburr it, which I use this to deburr the inside, the outside, and then I usually use a brush to clean it. And then you also got some primer pocket tools on this particular one. When I first started reloading, I didn't even clean primer pockets. I just, tumbled them and then started reloading. Okay, you'll need a scale. You can go manual. I do have a digital scale around here somewhere, but I go back and forth between this. I usually use this more during the winter. During the summer, I'll use this one here. This one is a Hornady. RCBS. And I got a couple of, I think this one here is a Lyman. This one here is a Lee, which I use that on one of my other presses mostly. As I depending on the caliber that you use or that you're reloading for, will determine your charge weight. Like I said, in this case here, I'm reloading 22-250, so I'm using some Reloader 19. I'm using 38 grains. I don't even remember which book I got that out of. But like I said, for me, when it comes to reloading, unless it's a justified load, i.e. getting it out of a published book, I won't normally say how much I use, because what's safe in my rifle or gun, depending on whether I'm shooting a handgun or rifle, won't necessarily be safe in yours. And also, even out of a published manual, what is safe in your rifle won't necessarily be safe in another person's rifle or handgun. Depends on what you load for. Most generally, if it's in the book, it's going to be safe. You just, out of caution, you should work up to it. I ain't that damn bright, so I usually start on the high side and then work my way down. You should start on the low side and work your way up, but like I said, I'm a Hoosier, so damn, just dumped my monster up my nose. All right, as I was saying, I'm using 38 grains of Reloader 90, 19. I'm loading 180 bullets. They're ELDs. Screen keeps going off. And then my overall length, I am setting to 2.635. And like I said, I'm here in the States, so that's going to be inches. Couldn't tell you what that is in metric, because I don't have my calipers on at the moment. Oh, actually, let me check. Shit. Put my other ones away. Hang on a second. I've already got some loaded. All right. And millimeters, that would be approximately 66.98 millimeters. This particular one that I checked was 2.637. Put this back. All right, now my normal process for reloading is whatever powder I'm using, I have that setting now, which is right here. Then whatever primer I'm using, same thing, I got that set out, which I just switched over to Winchester. I normally use CCI, but if you can find them, you just found gold. Primers are still hard for us to get around here. Other parts of the world, they're probably a dime a dozen, but for us, it's still, ever since Joe Biden got elected, it's been hard finding anything. That's about all the further I'm going to go into politics. I'm not really a political person. All right, I am loading 25 at the 25 rounds. I have not seeded any primers. Like I said, I have these already trimmed, so I've had these sitting for a while. So I use a hand-operated primer, which, let me take care of these real quick so I don't forget where I'm at. All right, there's 25. Got them oriented. Okay. Oops. This particular prime tool I've had for a little bit, that plastic lid is wore out, so it doesn't snap on or stay on like it's supposed to, so I use a rubber band to hold it. All right. Now, I know YouTube has some funny rules about, manufacturing ammo. This isn't manufacturing. This has already been fired. I am repurposing. So, we'll see if this video survives. All right. All you do, turn my screen back on so I can see what I'm doing. Slide your brass in like so. So like I said, this particular tool, which is RCBS, uses shell holders also, just like what I showed here. Put your tool in, bring your close up till you feel it make contact, give it a little squeeze. Now when you're priming, what do you want? One thing you want to make sure of is don't have it pointed at your face. I actually had a first happen not too long ago where I detonated a primer. Scared the hell out of me. All right, now after you seat the primer, you want to squeeze until you feel it make firm contact at the bottom. If you look at it, it should look a little below flush. And if you run your finger across it or even your fingernail, you should be able to feel the gap between the edge of the brass and the primer itself. And then just repeat for however many you're doing at one time. I usually don't do much more than 20 or 25 at a time, because I've actually forgot to charge cases before, mainly pistol. I've never forgot to charge on a rifle. Oops. But still, it can happen. All right, so let me burn through these real quick, and I'll get back with you. All right, got all those primed. As I've stated before, at least I think I've stated, I'm a big fan of Lee. When it comes to reloading presses, it's a matter of preference. I've got mostly Lee, but I also have an old RCBS. When I first started reloading, I had a Lyman. I ended up giving that to a friend, and when I not necessarily switched over to Lee, but got me a newer press. And I have all sorts of Lee product. Most of my pistol dies and about half my rifle dies are all Lee. And I got RCBS. I got a I think this 35 rim is Lyman. I got some Hornady, but and another Hornady. But looking through here, looks like it's a good mix between RCBS. I even got a Redding stuffed back there. RCBS and Lee, mostly Lee. So when it comes to reloading dies or reloading equipment in general, it's a matter of preference. All right. Once you have your brass primed, then it's time for charging. Now, like I said, I've already got this set, and I'm running 38 grains. Excuse me. I sound like a pig today. All right. Put your weight on. Here lately, I've been actually trickling up to my charge weight I want. On this one here, I can set it. That stops at a certain point and then trickles. Oh man, rest way up. Okay, on these beam type, what you're looking for when you put your charge weight in, at the 0 mark, which looks like I'm actually a little bit below it, and the little white mark on your beam need to match, give or take. That's a half a grain from 0 down and 0 up. So I can get this focus a little better. There you go. So each one of those lines is a 1/10 of a grain. And then, oops, I guess I should do the other part. This big weight is your main charge. This little one back here, let me go at an angle here. This little one right here would be your 1/10 of a grain. So every 5 is a half, full is a dime. Be the best way to look at it, or easiest way to look at it. So, and then this here's my trickler. That's what I've been using to finish it off. I believe it's an RCBS. Couldn't tell you the model or anything like that because I've had it that long. I started reloading in roughly 1999, 98, somewhere around there. Not the most knowledgeable, but I've been doing it long enough to know what mistakes I can make. All right, once you got it weighed to 0, in some cases, calibers you can that you're reloading, you can just dump it right in and it goes in. Smaller necks like this will do what they call bridging, which looks like that. Take care of that. Just start tapping it and it drops the rest way down. There are ways around that. You can pull, speech impediment big time. Pour a little slower. And say my powder measure I'm using, that's obviously an RCBS because it's, they're green. It's the Uniflow. That's about all I can tell you about that. I don't even remember where I got it at. I've had it that long. Get this up to 0. All right. On small neck calibers like this, like 22s, you can pour it a little slower. Oh, there we go. And usually it will just go right in without any issue. Still a good idea to double check before you move to your next case. I was trying to teach my brother one time how to do some reloading. I wasn't paying attention, didn't realize that he had some powder that had bridged on this particular caliber, 22-250. And I ended up with an overcharge enough that it blew the primer out and locked the bolt itself up on my rifle, which I know I did a video on that particular rifle that these are for, that I just rebuilt earlier this year. So, but I know some people reload to save money. When I first started reloading, that was kind of what the point was, to save money, because I did and still do have a pretty heavy trigger finger, especially on semi-autos. I'll burn, at the time, I was able to burn through 1,000 rounds of any given caliber in just one time out. So I figure if I'm gonna shoot, it'd be a good idea to maybe start reloading. Kind of got to the point where reloading versus buying really wasn't saving anything, so I kind of tailored my reloading down to more getting the most precision out of any given rifle that I have. Which, over the years I've kind of acquired quite a few. All right. Well, I'm going to finish these out, and I will get back with you. All right, after you got all your cases charged, what you'll want to do is take a look down in, make sure you have powder in all of them. Depending on how much light you got, usually you can do it without a flashlight. I used a flashlight to help show it up. After you double check everything, next comes the bullet seating. Now just about every die has an adjuster on it. Depending on what kind of die it is going to determine what it looks like. RCBS, it's usually like this. I do believe they have some like bench rest that'll be a little different, be more like a thumb screw. I know some of the Hornadies, you can buy a conversion kit to change it over to more like a precision die. But what you'll want to do is whatever bullet you're using after you got your charges in there. This is how I normally do it. Take some out, put it in your hand. Then I just set them in there first. That way I know where I'm at. Now you can charge, put powder in one, then load it, put powder in the next, load it, and do it that way if you want, or you can put powder in all of them, and then come back through and seat your bullets. That's what I normally do. I'll get all the powder in all of them, come through, and then put the bullets on top of all of them. Then all I got to do is seat. And if it's like if I'm doing a load workup, kind of what these are, after I seat the bullet, I'll write down on it the who, what, and where. What powder I used and how much, what primer, sometimes what primer. Like I said, most of the time I'm using CCI, so I don't normally worry about the primer. What bullet I'm using and the weight, and then my overall length that I got the bullet seated to. Now when it comes to seating it, for overall length, people use two different measurements. Get this last one here, they'll use a special tool. Let me seat one of these real quick. Now I don't dump powder all over the place. They use calipers, like these right here, and they'll measure overall length this way. I do believe this is the most common. And you got others that uses a special die that measures from here to the ogive of the bullet. I think it's the ogive, if I pronounce that correctly, which would be roughly right in this area. Kind of like where the flat edge of the bullet meets, where it starts to taper down. Which I do have one of those. Let me grab it real quick, as I figure out where I got it hiding at. Should be this one right here, and it comes with different. Hey, I still got a 22 in this one. Different adapters. But this just clamps onto your caliper. So now as far as which blade to put it on, that's a matter of preference. For me, it's easier to have it on the top. Put it on there, bring your caliper up to it, zero it out. Then this measures to the ogive, from the base to the ogive. So the trickiest part about this is making sure you got it flat. So in this case here, from base to ogive is 2.092. They say measuring to the ogive is more consistent. Beyond me personally, I have not noticed any difference between doing the standard way or measuring to the ogive. They both seem to be pretty consistent. Now, if you're running like a Sierra bullet, or not just Sierra, but a hollow point type bullet, I think that's where that would be more than likely the better way to go. Because if you ever stop and look at a hollow point bullet, whether it be a match bullet or a hunting bullet, you notice that point is not very even. Now they do have tools out there to take care of that. That's a little more work than I'm willing to do. But anyways, going back onto this, once you set your bullets on there, I usually check every 5. That's number 5. And then on my next row, I'll check that first one again, just to make sure. You will have some variation. I've even checking to ogive. I have noticed there's always variation. Yep, 2.635. So, and I usually got about 2 to 5 thousandths either direction. Sometimes, you know, it might be 5 thousandths over or 5 thousandths on there, but most generally it's 2 thousandths either direction. So, punch out this next row. Number 4 and number 5. And I'll check this one. Ouch. And then remove flush by catching the point of the bullet. Yep, 2.634. All right, well, I will finish these out and I will get back with you. All right. Now, if you'll notice, I got 3 of them that I set aside. The purpose behind that is because I got a different measurement than the rest of them. This one here, I'm measuring 2.640. That's 5 thousandths over. This one here, 2.639. And this one here is 2.639. Now, usually when that happens, either something's changed or something got underneath it and either shoved the bullet in further, which in this case is not seating as deep. But as I said earlier, I got a plus or minus 5 thousandths either direction, so I'm not going to worry about those. However, something you notice, I kind of went back through and started checking the others. That's actually kind of part of my manufacturing background for SPC, Statistical Process Control. You check X amount. When you find a bad one, you go back till you find a good one, and the bad ones you would segregate. Well, in this case, they're good, but still got my attention. And also, if you'll notice, I made a mistake earlier in the video that I caught, but I didn't catch it until I dumped powder in. When I was charging my cases, I had one I put in, I got distracted, mainly because of doing the video also, and then I put a second charge in there and I noticed it when it didn't go down, so even after tapping it, it didn't move. So that's when I figured out I did something wrong. Ouch. So in that case, you usually pick it up carefully, and then I don't know if you were able to see or not, but I just dumped it right back into the powder measure and did it again. Okay, now, as far as charging your cases or seating your bullets, you can either do it the way I just showed, or the other way I do it sometimes. I'll seat the bullet, and then I'll put it right into my case. So, since I'm doing a little bit of load development, I'm going to leave one row in so I can mark the who, what, and where. I'll show you how I do that here in just a second. Let me get the rest of these in there. I do kind of, I don't know if it's a good way or a bad way, but it works for me. And that's kind of what it boils down to. As long as it can be done safely and you stay within the specifications, whether self-described or book described, usually you can't go wrong. All right. Now, for what I do, if I'm doing load development, I'll actually write on the case. Now, if it's a brand new development, I'll actually write on every case. But in this case, since I've already tried this load before, this here is a double check. If it works as good as it did last time, I won't be writing these on here anymore until I decide to change something. So I just get a Sharpie. I got to fine point this in this case. That doesn't work very well. Come on, you can do it. Get it to cooperate here. Well, maybe. Uh-oh, did I finally kill it? All right. Apparently it's not working anymore now. There it goes. All right. 38 grains. Reloader 19. 80 grain ELD. And 2.635. Yeah. And I don't know if you're going to be able to read the writing, but these are first. Well, actually, I can't even see it in the display here. So, like I said, I just write 38 grains of whatever powder. In this case, reloader 19. So I write the powder and charge weight and powder, bullet, and if it's something specific, like if it be a Sierra Match King, in this case, a ELD from Hornady, and then Right below that, I'll write the overall length. Now you can put a OAL on there for overall length, or you can just put the numbers on there. In this case, I did just the numbers. And since I have 25, I'll do that on 5 of them. So my biggest suggestion is start out using books. Any reputable manual will keep you safe. I use several. I got a Hornady, which I need to get their newest one, because I think they got a new one out. I got a Lee book here. I have an old Nosler book I started with. I mean, I got their updated version, but it's actually a Lyman manual. I might even still have the first manual that I used from them. Let's see, I got a Accurate Powders book, or I think it's Accurate Powders, which owned by, I think, Hornady now. But yeah, I got several different manuals I use. And some of the powder manufacturers, like Alliant, they actually have information online. So you can even check online to see. And once you get enough experience and start getting comfortable, you can start experimenting, trying powders that aren't listed. That's a fairly brief video on how to do reloading. Whether you're reloading for rifle or pistol, the process is pretty much the same. After you fire it, you punch it, size it and punch it, which usually happens all in one. Clean it, trim it if necessary. Most pistols you don't normally have to. Most rifles you usually will. Put your powder in, or put your primer in, put your powder in, put your bullet in, seat it, and then go have fun. Well, I appreciate you. Hopefully you stuck out this long, and I appreciate you watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.